Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. You guys know mayoral candidate, the new mayor of New York, Zoran Mamdani, made a lot of headlines after he won the race to become the mayor of New York City, and he had a very fiery speech that inspired a lot of people. A lot of people were calling it one of the best speeches they've heard in a while. Although he was a controversial figure, some people call him a socialist or whatever, that still didn't stop over 50% of New Yorkers voting for a 33 or 34-year-old as to be the mayor of New York City. And as somebody who grew up in New York, went to junior high school and all of that, lived in the Bronx, lived in Yonkers, spent a little bit of time in New Jersey. You know, I consider myself a New Yorker. I can understand some of the reasons why people decided that it was time to make a change, because New York City had become absolutely outrageous in terms of a place to live. It was just too damn expensive, and the cost of living was out of control. Absolutely out of control. Last time I was just there earlier this year in May for my sister's graduation. And I couldn't believe how expensive New York City was. I mean, I really could not believe it. Outrageously expensive. Everything is expensive. And I spent half of the time just complaining about everything to the co-founder here, Marco. He was also there in New York. And we're just talking like, this is outrageous, right? It's absolutely outrageous. So something had to be done. So while a lot of people were excited for his victory, a lot of people were saying, oh no, this is a horrible thing for New York. New York City's lost its way. New York City is about to fall into the ocean. It's over. And one of the people that decided to go out there and step into the fray and voice his opinions was none other than Stephen A. Smith himself. Now, one would have thought that Stephen A. Smith would have kind of learned his lesson after the debacle that he found himself in after the Jasmine Crockett saga last month. But no, Stephen A. Smith said, no, I haven't had enough. And I think it's time for me to step even further. So what happened? Stephen A. Smith, fresh off of the news of Zoran becoming the mayor, he decided to react to it on the Stephen A. Smith show, and he absolutely went off on him. So for those of you who didn't hear those comments, I want to play it for you now, and I'm going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say here originally.
I'm going to tell you why I'm not happy about it. I like Mamdani. I'm looking forward to interviewing him. He's promised to be on this show. But I'm very, very concerned about some of the things that he said. I'm very concerned about what he once said about defunding the police. I'm calling 911. I'm being real with you. I'm calling 911. That's what I'm doing. I don't want to see less police officers. I want to see more police officers. I heard him talk about mental health experts in the subway system. I don't care about that. I want cops in the subways. In New York City, where I was born and raised. Born in the Bronx, raised in Queens. That's what I want. I want to hear about no damn mental health experts in subways. Nah, I'm not trying to hear that, okay? 2% tax on the rich. Okay, fine. 11.5% capital gains tax. On its face, okay, fine. Free buses. Free grocery stores in each borough? Really? Really think that's going to work? Ladies and gentlemen, we're at a crossroads in this nation. And there's no way to slice it. And the level of vitriol that you see amongst the American citizen is because, God forbid, that you have a difference of opinion. It's not enough to agree. You know, people have to be disagreeable. And you have to be selfish if you're a person that's rich, that's making money, and you don't want to pay your fair share of taxes. Well, when you think about the billionaires in the state, in the city of New York, they make up about 48% in terms of the amount of taxes that they dole out compared to the average American, compared to the rest of New Yorkers. And if you're talking about raising their taxes while doing these other things, you're making New York unattractive, not just for residents, but for businesses. And if you make it unattractive for businesses and you compromise the ability to be the capitalist that these people are, then they take their businesses elsewhere. So the money that they paid on their homes or in rent, they move out of the city or the state. Businesses follow. And ultimately the tax burden falls on to New Yorkers out there. which means that rent freezes, which is also something that Mamdani pushed. Is that really going to be plausible? Are you really going to be able to freeze rent? Or are you going to end up hiking it? Because you don't have enough people here to pay it. Tax revenue, where you getting that from? See, these are all the kind of things that we have to connect the dots and ask ourselves, 1 + 1, does it equal 2? Is it really plausible that these things are going to happen? According to Mayor Hochul, 90% of the stuff Mamdani said he can't do on his own. He got to come through her and the state legislature in order to get it done. Is he going to be able to do that? What level of support is he going to have outside of young whippersnappers out there who love him and are so in love with his personality and everything else that they didn't really dot the I's and cross the T's and look at actual policies and the kind of effect that's going to have on New Yorkers? That's what I'm worried about. I hope I'm wrong. Because talking to him, I liked him. I'm looking forward to sitting down and interviewing with him. I just want to know where the money coming from. See, I count. Okay? I count. And I can't tell you how many young teenagers, it could be daughters, it could be nieces and nephews, it could be friends and family members or relatives of folks along that age gap. And you're asking the same question. And you know what you come up with? The people who love Mamdani the most are not people who pay bills every day. I'm not saying that applies to everybody. I'm not applying that. But they certainly not people that pay bills every day all the time. You don't see business owners clamoring to support them. I'm just saying these things are important to bring up. Because there's going to be a divide that takes place. Remember, Mamdani's ascension and his win in the mayoral election in New York last night is entirely different from what supposedly transpired in New Jersey with Mikey Sherrill beating Citarelli for the gubernatorial seat, and of course in Virginia, where this lady Sears ultimately lost to Abigail Spanberger. By the way, I think Spanberger and Sherrill were roommates at one time or another. Winsome Earl Sears, she lost by convincingly, to say the least. But the reason I bring that up is because their campaign was a bit different than Zohran Mamdani. They were talking about affordability issues just like he was. But they were also a bit more pragmatic in their thinking. They weren't talking about free grocery stores and free bus rides. They weren't talking about those things. They were talking about centrist kind of policies that would ingratiate themselves with the vast majority of American citizens in their respective states, because guess what? They recognize that's where the meat of the electorate lives. Not on the fringes with extreme progressivism. Not on the fringes with the MAGA right. 85% of the population lives there. That's where I live. That's why I'm on POTUS. That's where we live. We ain't veering one way or the other to the extreme because we understand, it is about affordability. But it's also about the economy. It's also about safety in the streets. And when you're talking about the combination of a free bus rides or free grocery stores, and oh, by the way, less police, or at least not more police officers, and not prioritizing law enforcement in the streets of a city, of a state, of the United States of America, you got a problem.
So you heard what Smith had to say, right? So initially when we did the video, I was a bit trepidatious about what the reaction was going to be, because we hadn't produced a show like that on this channel before, right? And for a very long time, I'd said, look, I'm going to stay away from politics. It's something that I find to be very divisive. But given at the times that we're in, a lot of things were happening around me and across the world. And I was having an opinion about it in my personal life. And I said, hey, you know what? Let me just share some of my thoughts with our audience. Maybe some people disagree, some people agree, whatever it is. But at least let me just get some of this stuff off of my chest. So I woke up this morning, because I didn't really get a chance to kind of go through the comments or what people were saying yesterday. But I woke up this morning, and one of the comments, because on Chrome, when you have a YouTube channel, I'm sure some of you that have YouTube channels know this, the notification will pop up that somebody left a comment. So you click on it and then it takes you to the video and you start. So I then started to read through some of the comments of what viewers said on the video that we produced. And let me tell you something. New Yorkers were going off on Stephen A. Smith. And I want to read through some of the comments of what people said. The video now is beginning to pick up a lot of steam right now. It has about 500 comments. So let's get through some of what he had to, some of what viewers had to say. It says, one guy says, I'm 57 years old. Smith hasn't learned that you don't have to and probably shouldn't comment on every effing thing. He truly has gone from reporting the news to wanting to be the news. He wants people talking about him no matter what. Another viewer said, why do people take Stephen A. Smith seriously? He is a clown. Another viewer said, can we all agree to boycott this fool and maybe he can be canceled? Another guy says, Stephen A. Smith is such a fool. It's not even worth listening to. Another viewer said, countdown to Stephen A. Smith's apology. Another viewer said, Stephen Snake Smith. It just kept going on. Another viewer said, I'm just tired of Stephen A. This is part of the grift. Another guy said, does he think 50% of New Yorkers are stupid? We knew what we were voting for. It kept on going on. I don't know why people are still subscribed to ESPN and Stephen A. Smith. Another one said, Stephen A. Smith is the one that should stop talking politics, mostly because he goes back and forth. Another viewer said, thank you for covering this. Everyone is quiet about this mistake by Stephen A. Smith. He is very sloppy when it comes to his political opinions for someone with aspirations to run for president. Another viewer said, he still hasn't learned his lesson. Another viewer said, I love Mamdani's speech and listened to it multiple times. Well done. It didn't stop there. I want to keep reading because people really let their feelings be known. Another viewer said, I'm a New Yorker. I live here. I live it. Very expensive. The cost of living doesn't match the economy here. Another guy said, Stephen A. Smith needs to stay out of politics. And then there was another guy that left a very, very detailed comment where he was talking about a situation in which his daughter, who lives in New York City, I believe pays $5,000 a month on rent. And I think she has a great job. Congratulations to him. And he was describing a time that he went to New York and was talking about just how outrageously expensive it is. And people just kept on going on and on and on and on about it. What are my thoughts about this? Stephen A. Smith was born in Queens, New York, right? And I think what has happened is Stephen A. Smith is one of those people that seems to have forgotten where they came from. Do you know that there's some rich people who were once poor that become rich but never forgot what it was like to be poor? They still had the ability to put themselves in the shoes of those that were less fortunate than them. Do you know that there also are rich people like that? Do you know that there's some rich people that can say, man, I'm doing very well in life, but I understand that that's not the reality of other people. And sometimes it has nothing to do with hard work. Sometimes it has to do with the circumstances you're born into, right? You're born into a certain neighborhood. You're born into a certain social class, and you got to fight your way up. And sometimes people make it and others don't. But there seems to be this callousness and this cold-heartedness to some of the things that Stephen A. Smith is saying. And now you have his fellow New Yorkers calling him to the carpet and saying, hey, listen, buddy, you don't seem to know what the heck you're talking about here. You don't even seem to. Okay, I want to quickly refer to Mamdani's website, because Stephen A. Smith said, amongst many of the things that he said wrong, was that he wants to give free food, free grocery stores, when in fact, he said nothing of the sort. Let me read. This is from his website. We'll put it up on the section of affordability. City-owned grocery stores. Food prices are out of control. Nearly 9 in 10 New Yorkers say the cost of groceries is rising faster than their income. Only the very wealthiest aren't feeling squeezed at the register. As mayor, Zoran will create a network of city-owned grocery stores focused on keeping prices low, not making a profit. without having to pay rent or property taxes. They will reduce the overhead and pass on the savings to shoppers. They will buy and sell at wholesale prices, centralize warehousing and distribution, and partner with local neighborhoods on products and sourcing. With New York City already spending millions of dollars to subsidize private grocery stores operators, we should redirect public money to a real public option. Then he spoke about free buses. He spoke about no cost childcare. Who would argue against that? Who would argue against that? Now, if you have the resources to pay for your kids to have, top-notch childcare, then by all means go for it. But why would anybody be against that? Wouldn't it be better? Wouldn't it be better for the overall good if kids are being raised properly and getting the proper not nutrition, but the proper mentorship and care growing up as kids, so we have a better overall safer society? Wouldn't that be you would think that would be a good thing, right? You would think. And then he made up this thing about, New Yorkers are going to run away. Right? The New Yorkers are going to run away. Let me read the part where he says paying for the agenda, taxing corporations and the 1%. Zoran has a plan to bring down the cost of living through city-owned grocery stores, universal child care, and other bold proposals, and he knows exactly how to pay for it too. Zoran's revenue plan will raise the corporate tax rate to match New Jersey's 11.5%, bringing in $5 billion, and he will tax the wealthiest 1% of New Yorkers, those who are earning above $1 million annually, a flat 2% tax. Zoran will also implement common sense procurement reform and endless non-bid contracts, hire more tax auditors, and crack down on fine collection from corrupt landlords to raise an additional $1 billion. So he gave his method of which he's going to pay. Is it going to work? I don't know. I guess we have to wait and see. He also spoke about, the landlords just hiking up rent prices and all of that. So to me, look, whatever it is Stephen A. Smith felt like he was saying, the vast majority of New Yorkers disagree with him. You know why? Because these people have their feet on the earth. They have their foot on the ground. And to me, it's insane to me that a guy that came from an impoverished background, made it to the top of the sports world, is so cold-hearted about others who are less fortunate than him being having programs in place to help them live a better life. I don't understand that. As I said from the beginning of this show, there are rich people who come from impoverished circumstances that when they become rich, they make it their goal to try to help their community. That's their goal. Stephen A. Smith's number one talking point is, how much money can I make? Money, 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 money. How much money can I make? How much money can I? That's his whole talking point. He's not even talking about, let me figure out a way to build a school. Let me figure out a way to do this. Let me figure out a way to do. No, it's just about how much money I can make. And I want to get to this last point about New Yorkers are going to run away. No, who told you this? Run away and go where? Business people are leaving New York to go where? Most of the people that have their businesses set up in New York, they're going to close shop because of a 2% tax increase or because they raised corporate taxes a little bit. Don't you already know that taxes are high in New York City anyway? Do you see people running away? Who told you this? But the fact of the matter is, New York City is outrageously expensive. It is. There's no two ways about it. And most people that live there can't afford to handle the cost of living there. They can't. And it has nothing to do with, these guys are not working hard. That's a very simplistic way of looking at the world. That, I did well, so the reason this next guy isn't doing well is because he's not working hard. Do you realize that the world is just a tad bit more complicated than that? Sometimes it's not just about working hard. Sometimes it's your circumstances. Sometimes it's your connections. Sometimes it's where you live. Like, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? So I think he completely missed the mark. He's in the minority because the people that would be in opposition to his point of view lost. And in all of this hollering and screaming, Stephen A. Smith ain't leaving New York City. He not leaving New York City. If he lived there full time, you think he's going to leave New York because they increased his taxes by 2%? Really? 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 Like, what are we talking about here? What exactly are we talking about here? I just think that's absurd. It's absurd. It's absurd. Like, so I think he completely missed the mark. On top of that, he didn't really seem to know what the hell he was talking about. at all. At all. So I think you pretty much heard what New Yorkers had to say. You pretty much heard what New Yorkers had to say. And I'm amazed at all the people that have never lived in New York, have no plans of traveling to New York, will never travel to New York. All of a sudden, they have all of these comments. Oh, New York is not going this. How New York is not going there. New York, like, what are you talking about? Most of y'all have never even been to New York City. But y'all got all of these comments to say what's going to happen to New York and this and this and this and this and this and this. Please, like, what are we talking about here? New York will be just fine without you. Okay, we'll be just fine without you. One of the biggest talking points in the NBA right now is Bronny James, right? And a lot of people have been trying to come to the defense of Bronny. You know, Bronny is still growing up. He's still a kid. Bronny's he's the only NBA player that they call a kid. All the other young players in the NBA, they don't call them kids. When it comes to Bronny, all of a sudden he's a baby, like walking around in diapers or something like that, right? But if you guys know, Bronny hasn't really been all that good this year. This year, in about twice the minutes that he played last year, scoring 2.6 points per game on 35% shooting, 33% shooting from three, while getting you 1 rebound a game and 1.9 assists, 0.9 steals, and almost 1 turnover a game, right? But most of us who have watched the footage, we all know that Bronny shouldn't be on the Lakers roster. We know this, right? And I think it's clear to see that the only reason Bronny's on the roster is because of his father, LeBron James. But of course, LeBron fans have come to the defense of Bronny and said this, if you don't like Bronny, you don't like your father and all of this. I'm like, look, the guy's a professional. And here's the part. They try to make this argument of, when do we talk about the 55th pick? Well, it's a fantastic question you ask. Because when was the last time you've seen a 55th pick plastered all over the internet? Last summer, Bronny was being promoted more than current NBA All-Stars, for God's sake. They were promoting him with Cooper Flagg, the number 1 pick in the draft, in the summer league game this summer. You would have thought that this guy is a hell of a player. Then certain nights when the Lakers win and Bronny does something, they're posting him on the thumbnail. If Bronny has an alley-oop dunk, he's being posted all over SportsCenter, House of Highlights, NBA on ESPN. But then you got the nerve to ask people why we talking about him. Why are they promoting him? If y'all going to keep pushing him like this, then we're going to talk about him. But in the midst of that going on, right, in the midst of all of that going on, there's another player that's a son of a former NBA player. And that player goes by the name of Keon Anthony, Carmelo Anthony's son. And Keon Anthony is looking amazing right now. Okay. I think his first debut game for Syracuse, where he came off the bench, he had 15 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. And he looked really good. His next game as a starter, he finished the game with 19 points and 4 assists. But beyond the box score, if you watched him play, you can clearly see that this guy is the real deal. In only 2 games, he's averaging 17 points, 3 rebounds, 3.5 assists per game on 43% shooting from the 3-point line so far. 42% shooting from the free throw line and 66.7% shooting from the field. He can hit the long ball. He can go to the basket. He can hit a mid-range. Son can play. And in the midst of all of this, many of us were wondering, well, Keon is doing well. He's the son of an NBA player, part of the Banana Boat Club. What about Bronny? So then, I was combing through the internet. And boy, oh boy, did I come across some funny posts. All right, boy, oh boy. But there was this one post that sent LeBron fans into an absolute downward spiral. And I want to show it to you. It's from Harmon Equity, whatever. It says, Keon Anthony is who many thought Bronny James would be. Good Lord, why did this woman write that? This post got 231,000 views. Let me read through some of the comments. You chose violence today. She said, I'm just over here reading my book and being productive. Another guy said, both are talented. Melo handled the process better and didn't put pressure on his son. Another guy said, that's what Bronny would have been in college had he not gone into cardiac arrest. Another guy said, why can't y'all just watch them kids hoop? Bronny's not a kid, but I digress. Another guy said, Bronny has more points in the NBA than Michael Jordan's son combined, though. So there's that. Another person said, Bronny's in his second in the league and progressing through. LOL, whatever the hell this guy said. Nobody thought he was going to be his dad. Another guy said, it's way too early to predict careers. Another Brio said, how is comparing NBA and college work exactly? Another guy said, oh boy, here we go. Another viewer said, or commenter said, or whatever, I don't think you know ball. And they just kept on going on and on. You got to relax, whoa, and all of this stuff. The UMF is weird. Shut the hell up. People got mad, right? And I'm saying all of this. But the fact of the matter is this. We all know that the media would have done anything for Bronny to be this good. Had Bronny been looking like Keon, and I'm not putting them together, I'm just drawing a parallel here, they would have lost their minds. They would have lost their mind. They would have been talking about, does Bronny have a higher upside than Victor Wembanyama? Can Bronny become an all-star next week? This is what they do. And again, I go back to my original point. They talk about, oh man, why are you always burning out Bronny? Why are you always talking about Bronny? Wasn't not Gil's Arena the other day that posted a video when I think the Lakers were 6-2? Who did they post on the thumbnail? The game they won that game without Austin Reeves and Luka. They put Bronny James on the thumbnail. They said Bronny James helps lead the Lakers to a victory. Bronny James. This is what Gil's Arena did. This is what Gil's Arena did. But if we talk about it, oh my God, you don't like your father. You hating on a black man. And blah, 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 blah. They know deep down in their hearts, they wish it was son. But Melo went about it the Melo way. The quiet way. He just let his son progress. He didn't go out there and post ridiculous comments on the internet talking about he's better than half of the players in the NBA right now on League Pass. That he can play on whatever team it is right now, which LeBron did. So when you go out there and you put all of these expectations on this guy to go out there and perform, and he doesn't do it, then you're going to get what you got. You're going to get what you got. And the result of it is that you got people like Stephen A. Smith being ran down on at Laker games for doing their job. And in the case of Stephen A. Smith, he didn't even talk about Bronny. He talked about the fact how he was trying to stay away from talking about him. Have you noticed anybody saying anything negative about Keon? Why? Because the guy just went about his business and did his job. His father didn't make any noise. He didn't say anything. And now he's looking like a legit player. Legit. And the only way to and the only way to go from here is up. He's only going to continue to get better. But I know. Oh, the media they would have loved it. They would have loved it, and we all know it. We all know it. There was another post that I saw from Bronny Muse. It says, surely these comments are about Keon, right? And then it goes on. It was reacting to a post from, I think, was it Legion Hoops? And they just kept on crying some more. Another guy said, mad because Bronny stinks. He says, another guy said, difference between something being earned and something being given. Another person said, nobody cares about any other second round pick like they do with Bronny. I feel bad for him. And it just kept on going on and on and on and on and on and on. Even though NBA viewership is up 92%, there's something that I just still can't get over. And that thing is the fact that NBA players are still missing games in an absolutely disgusting fashion. It's disgusting. And one would have thought that after Michael Jordan came out there and made some comments about load management, things would have changed. As you guys know, Michael Jordan, one of the clips that dropped, I believe it was last week, was when he touched on the issue of load management. And They asked Michael Jordan what were his thoughts on it. For those of you who don't remember what MJ had to say, I want to play what MJ had to say about load management quickly, and I'm going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to Michael Jordan here.
The term load management has become such a hot button in the NBA.
How I know you were going to talk about that one?
Because you played 80 games a lot. You played 82. What do you think of when you hear the term load management thrown around?
It shouldn't be needed, first and foremost. You know, I never wanted to miss a game because it was an opportunity to prove. It was something that I felt like, you know, the fans are there to watch me play. I want to impress that guy way up on top who probably worked his ass off to get a ticket or to get money to buy the ticket.
You really cared about the guy who sat in the top deck at the Palace in Auburn Hills to watch you when you came to Detroit?
Yeah, because I know he's probably yelling at me, and I want to shut him up. You know, he's calling me all kinds of names. I definitely want to shut him up.
Right.
You have a duty that if they're wanting to see you, and as an entertainer, I want to show, right? So if the guys are coming to watch me play, I don't want to miss that opportunity. Now, physically, if I can't do it, then I can't do it. But physically, if I can do it, and I just don't feel like doing it, that's a whole different lens.
So give me the first time that you came to that fork in the road in your career where you could have sat down and missed a game, but you fought through.
Started my career.
Okay.
I twist my ankle. And I had a teammate. He says, "You twist your ankle, young fella. Come over and sit with me. You know, this is you need to." I said, "No, man. I'm trying to make a name for myself. There's no way I can sit. You know, I need to get out there and show what I'm capable of. I want to play. I want to win. I want to make an impact." And I twisted my ankle. I taped it up, and I went back out, and I played. I always felt that. I always felt the necessary need that I could never leave my comrades out if I could perform, right? Even if I couldn't. You know, Utah, great example. You know, everybody said the flu game. It's game 5, which is a very pivotal game. I was going to find a way to get out there, even if I was a decoy. Well, once I got out there, you know, you never know how, you know, pushing yourself, you never know what happens, right?
So that night you got out there and you found you could do more than you thought you were going to be able to do.
Next thing you know, the emotions, the situation, the need of the team, you know, all those things catapulted me to, I'm going to gut this thing out. You know, back to your point of what load management is, you know, you play basketball 2.5 hours a day, 3 hours a day, right? That's your job. That's what you get paid to do as an NBA player. What are you doing the other 21 hours? I mean, to me, that's when you should be preparing for your next day of work or your next, you know, challenge. Now, I'm the worst. I mean, maybe I'm not one of the guys that you would probably model that, or you know.
I was going to say, did you do that every time?
But you should think about that in retrospect of what load management really is. I always felt like one is a sense of pride for the fans that are paying.
Right.
2 is a sense of, you know, making sure that I stay sharp. You know, I'm not going to lose it. And 3, I want our rhythm as a team to always be there. It can disrupt that synergy that's happening.
Great. So you heard what Michael Jordan said. So one would have thought, man, Jordan is back. Jordan would have said, you know, greatest play ever, said this. Maybe it would have inspired guys to play more. But in fact, it's the total opposite that is happening. Players are missing games without any regard for the fans. And it's absolutely insane. Yesterday, on our channel, I posted a comment. And I said, can somebody please tell me, is Kawhi Leonard still playing in the NBA? Because I can't tell. That guy doesn't care at all. Best thing I ever did was stopping to root for that guy. There's a Kobe guy who was a Iron Man, or like a guy that would just go out there and give it his all. I don't even know how I ended up rooting for Kawhi. Well, I know because of his play style and the endorsement of Kobe and all of that. But you have that. Now, if you look at if you look at let's look at some players here this year that have missed games. The Clippers are currently the 12th seed in the Western Conference with a 3-6 record. They're horrible. And one of the reasons they're horrible is because their best players are missing games left and right. They played 9 games. Of the 9 games that the Clippers have played this year, Kawhi Leonard has only played 5. So if they were to play, if he were to play if they were to play one more game without him, he would have missed 50% of the games already. If he were to play the next game, he would have missed 40% of the games already. But it's not just him. Let's look at Anthony Edwards. And Anthony Edwards this year has only played 6 games. Let's look at Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves this year has only played, well, he's played 7 games. Let's look at Stephen Curry this year. Stephen Curry has played 8 games. Nikola Jokic, he's playing his games. Let's look at Giannis, who I think is leading the race right now for the MVP. He's played 9 games. And of course, let's look at Luka Doncic. He's played 6 games. Then today I saw another news that Jalen Green, who just came back and made his debut for the Phoenix Suns, is expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a hamstring injury after during the day he made his debut, or the second game, or whatever it was. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, if these guys don't care to play every single game, why should I care? Let me tell you one of the reasons I don't support the Clippers anymore. The Clippers are a very frustrating team to support, and I'll tell you why. First of all, they give absolutely zero information to the fans when players are missing games. You don't even know half of the time if guys are going to be there or not. They give no information. And what happens is, because they love to load manage their guys, they put themselves in a situation where it's almost like throwing games, where they lose games left and right. And then what happens? They lose so many games that at a certain point in the season, like around February, they realize, oh my God, man, we're in the play-in tournament picture. Then they start freaking out and trying to rush guys to play a lot of games to catch up, so they miss the play-in tournament because of all of the games that they lost from sitting out their stars. And before you know it, they run Kawhi Leonard into the ground, and he either gets injured in round 1, or they end up getting knocked out in round 1. And that's been the story with them. Luka Doncic. The Lakers this year have played, let me see how many games the Lakers have played. 10 games. Luka's already missed 40% of those games. And Luka was supposed to be in tip-top shape. And let me tell you something. Given the fact that the NBA has marketed his game, has built its game around stars, when stars don't show up, it makes it very difficult to watch these games. It makes it extremely difficult. But here's something you should be expecting to happen. You better be expecting that a lot of these guys are going to hit that 65 game threshold. Why is that threshold so important? Because when you hit the 65 game threshold, that's when you can qualify like for things like the scoring title, making all NBA teams, making defensive teams, winning the MVP. I think also different than that. Defensive player of the year, which then has a direct impact on the amount of money you can make. Because when you have those feathers in your hat and you're hitting those type of benchmarks, those milestones, then you can earn more money. So expect them to hit that number miraculously. But for the other nights, don't expect much. And it's a league-wide problem. I can only imagine what the paying customer must feel like going to these games, knowing damn well that these guys, there's a probability they won't even be there. And most of the times, you won't even have an explanation. Most players are not even injured. They're not even injured. They're just nursing a few knick-knack things there, and they're not playing. But still going to collect the full check for the 82 games. The full check. It's just crazy. And I find it to be extremely, extremely, extremely difficult to root for these guys. I really do. I find it to be very, very difficult to root for these guys. And it's sad.